Hi, welcome back to Live Comics Live. I'm Mike.
I'm Vincent, and this is the
And
show where we talk about comics live.
yeah, live and in your face.
This weekend, both of us recommuted with the students of S.H.I.E.L.D, a great organization that founded this friendship and others. And we took our annual pilgrimage to the Harrisburg area to hunt for comics.
Indeed, we
And
did.
we got some stuff. There are full haul videos, maybe a giant one, maybe multiple ones, that are being edited as we speak.
By who? I have no idea, but
And they'll go up sometime on this channel. So for more in depth, everything we got, check out those videos. But Mike, did you grab anything in particular that you really were excited to find or excited to read?
well, the number one book. Well, it's funny. The number one book I was looking for on the trip was Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph and Torment, and didn't find on the trip. But you told me earlier today that it's getting an Epic collection with a bunch of stuff. So I guess that's the way I'm going to get it.
Well, sort of. Probably off air. You should. I'll talk to you about that, and you should do some research. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if that's a good option.
yeah, I know. I saw what you said about it, but I mean, we'll figure it out. I bought a bunch of stuff. The Ollies we went to had a lot of good stuff. That was kind of where I got the biggest haul of my day. I'm excited to read Superman Panic in the Sky since I'm a big Dan Jurgens Superman fan. Um, Vigilante by Wolfman I know is a good run. I want to read that too. And then Astonishing Ant-Man by Spencer. I want to read that as well because friend of the show Dan or what's Dan's channel name?
Mandak.
Mandak loves that run and speaks very highly of it. So I was happy to find that too. And then kind of like total unironically, kind of looking forward to eventually reading Executioner Song whenever I get around to it.
Yep. Also, Epic Collection just announced, but a little different.
Yeah, it's all X-Force based.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of shit, um, mostly just stuff, nothing super special. For some reason, I bought a bunch of Walt Simonson's Thor run, even though I already own the omnibus. But I'm kind of intrigued because these books have the original coloring, which, granted, it's not really a Neil Adams situation.
No,
Th-
it's not.
This coloring, the recoloring, totally done professionally in the Marvel way, super overseen by Simonson, and it's not really garish or anything, but it's kind of interesting. And also, almost all my Thors in paperback, so a little bit of OCD appeal as well. And I also found at a store called Comics and Paperbacks Plus in Palmyra, Pennsylvania. Um, I found a few pre-Unity Valiant issues, which this is when the print run on a lot of Valiant stuff was not as huge. And it's basically there was a perfect storm of Wizard hyping them, and then this Unity crossover, which took over their entire line and launched a few new books, where they exploded from being like this tiny no-name publisher to suddenly being like I think for a while the third ranked publisher or maybe even second above DC for like maybe 1 month or something because this is still slightly before Image, I believe. And you can also see, you can tell how early they are because this is Solar number 4 and then number 5. You see that the trade dress changes. They adopt like a more uniform corner box similar to Marvel and DC.
Which you have a T-shirt of that logo, right?
Yeah. Well, that logo is still on the old ones, but just
It's
yeah,
more like
they
definitely.
put the whole number, price, and everything in a better spot, more figured out. And yeah, so I'm excited for those. The Valiant collection continues, and other cool books. Other members of this club also got other cool books. So tune into the haul videos in parentheses and check that out.
If you want to quickly cover news, Jonathan Hickman's back at Marvel because CTE2 was this weekend.
Yeah, he's doing something.
Two X-Men event books, I think.
It's like two miniseries. They're both related to X-Men. I'm not sure if they're like interweaving each other. I don't know if they run alongside. I don't know if they're one is a sequel to the other.
I believe that's coming out in July, though.
Yeah, they haven't explained much, and but the teaser image features a lot of different versions of characters from the multiverse or from different points
Might
in
be a time
time.
travel story or something.
Just some kind of like crazy, dense meta head. Um, Teenia Howard signed a Marvel exclusive contract. Looking at that now. She wrote Hack Slash for Tim Seeley while he took a break from that, focused on Big Two work. She wrote a Captain America annual. She's writing some kind of Thanos miniseries coming up. Mark Waid is writing some history of the Marvel Universe related miniseries.
If they do it like the DC one that came out, like was I want to think is the '80s, it could be really cool.
Yeah, and back to Teenie Howard, right alongside her exclusive contract announcement. Apparently, she's writing a new Death's Head series, also featuring Wiccan and Hulkling from the Young Avengers. So that's going to be a very weird book.
Had one or two.
I think Death's Head, not to be confused with Death's Head 2. In fact, I think there's also a Death's Head 3.0. There's Death Metal and Death Wreck. Lots of death and other stuff. You know, Marvel's just new titles all the time, every month, multiple number ones. Valkyrie.
They put up that image of like the slate for 2019, and it's just all events, and like I cringe.
Yeah, Valkyrie is getting a new series spinning out of War of the Realms. It'll be co-written by Thor and War of the Realms writer Jason Aaron, but probably handling scripting and the main duties is Al Ewing, who just recently started working in comics, and she is the writer of the Lionheart series, which is Riri Williams, and a few other cool things pumping along. There's some kind of Infinity Warps thing, which Al Ewing is jumping back into. Absolute Carnage, they explain more about that. It's this big Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman thing.
Well, Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman has said that this book is going to outsell X-Men #1.
Which would be amazing. The thing is, if they like really want to go hard on that like gimmick marketing, like Marvel could kind of make it happen, but I think this is illegal. I think this is definitely fraud. But like Disney could just buy like 8 million copies for themselves. I don't know how
They
that works.
could.
That's probably definitely illegal, but I just thought of that. There's definitely some way to cook the books on this. And it
Well,
would be
yeah, it only has to be like 8 million books sold, not 8 million books sold that generate a profit.
yeah, not even 8 million books sold to readers. They could team up with Midtown and be like, hey, we'll sell you these 8 million for like a cent each or something, which is still relatively expensive. Um, and obviously, those 8 million don't have to be read by readers, just as they weren't in 1990. So that's the main news. C2E2 was this weekend. We may have some one or two more stories trickling out as the week starts, and we'll cover that on the next episode. Now, let's talk about our retro book of the week, whatever
I
we're
hate
calling
this
this.
book. Spectacular Spider-Man 254.
Yep, this is February 1997, Marvel. And this is part of the run by J.M. DeMatteis and Luke Ross. And we read the first issue of this run on our Clone Saga podcast.
Yeah.
Tune into the episode right after the end of the Clone Saga proper. And the setup for this, some Craven Hark happened before this, and now we're in the middle of something else. Pete is getting tortured by a character named Dr. Angst. And
Yep.
I guess these are memories, but I think we're seeing them for the first time because it ends up being kind of a framing device wrapping around.
Yeah.
Um, this is the era where Norman Osborn owns the Daily Bugle, and so
See,
Joe
the
Roberts.
entire era of Marvel, like, with just the way, like I keep saying, the way the books look and they're drawn with like the overly stylized numbers pages with the Spider-Man logo at the bottom, like even on like the trade dress, it's just a like a total weird late '90s, early 2000s look for Marvel that I find totally forgettable and weird.
Yeah. Joe Robertson quits the Bugle in frustration with Jonah, how he's being bossed around by Osborn. And Osborn taunts Pete about the death of Joey Z, and that leads to the Spider Hunt arc, which I thought this was a part of, but I misunderstood. And we also see that Pete, he's getting some respect because he took photos at an AIDS hospice, very timely, 90s AIDS crisis stuff. And in these like torture scenes, there's references to both Ben Riley and the baby.
Yeah.
And again, I continue to be um, surprised by the constant references in the post Clone Saga era. And I guess that just makes more sense where, like in 1999 with Byrne and Mackie, they did kind of go for a little bit more of a reboot because then I don't think we get any references to Ben and the baby for like 10 years. And Ben Urich gets given the task by Norman Osborn to unmask the real Green Goblin after Ben Urich wrote a book explaining that Norman Osborn is the real Green Goblin. And then, right about then, is when the dumbass villain Sir shows up, who's fought Daredevil before, as we're told. And we get caught up to the present with Spidey captured and being tortured. So I get things technically happen in this, but it's all in flashback behind this stupid, like, mental torture or framing device.
Yeah.
So kind of nothing happens at all in this issue. It was a pretty terrible issue.
It's terrible because it tries to have it invoke the "If This Be My Destiny" moment where Spider-Man's trapped, and then all of the memories of the people he knows and cares about flash before him, and then he gets out of it, and I hate it. And if you do that in a Spider-Man book, you clearly are just doing it because you want to homage to that story, and no one has ever done it better since then. So please stop inserting that in your Spider-Man stories.
That's just how it works. But Luke Ross art, not impressive here at all.
It actively looks worse. Like, it looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, it's not very good.
No real interesting character moments or anything. Nothing really going on. I mean, I think
Spider-Man
that
is like shirtless for most of this. That's the only thing.
yeah, the Osborn status quo for this era, I think, is like mildly interesting, but that's about it. And the AIDS hospice photos, that's pretty a timely and serious thing. I don't know if we did not read the story that actually covered that, or if it's literally just referenced quickly here. But even even if there is a full story to that, I'm sure it was not handled well. But if there were actually like good writers really trying, not to say Damon Hayes is a bad writer, as we know from certain other projects, but in a different, if somehow the 90s was not the 90s, that could have been a really interesting story. But yeah, no good.
No, terrible.
Next episode, we did the random number generator. We fell on Marvel again. We've gotten 3 Marvel books in a row. I don't know when that streak will end. I'm honestly hoping that it will. And we got September 1965. In September 1965, without counting like the romance humor books, though counting the Western books, there were only 11 titles published by Marvel in that month. Because this is still in the period where their their frequency of titles is constricted due to distributor, and there's like kind of some collusion stuff going on with DC and their distributor, but I don't remember the specifics. But we're reading Tales to Astonish 74, which we're going to read the whole thing. It has a Submariner story and a Hulk story, so I'm pretty damn excited for that.
Yeah, should be a lot better.
I love Silver Age Submariner. I'm a little iffy, not that familiar with Hulk after the initial like 6 issues, and pretty much up until Bill Mantlo. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, going over to DC, Mike, you've got Batman and Justice League to talk about because I don't read these super popular books.
Well, I really wanted you to read Batman because it was almost a silent issue, but you didn't get around to it. But
Yeah.
Batman 67, we got Tom King, Lee Weeks, and Jorge Fornes, and it's all the way down is the cover of the story. Batman's chasing a man in a coat and hat who says beep beep. And he has like a little bit of a design on his mask. I thought it was onomatopoeia. I really thought it was onomatopoeia, but at the end of the issue, it's not. It turns out to be the Joker. But most of the issue's silent. We just get sound effects as like they're crashing through windows and uh, leaping off ropes and swinging on them and stuff. We get like a little bit of a Ferris Bueller's Day Off moment as the guy in the as the Joker like runs through a window in someone's bedroom, and then they're like it's just them like the people sitting there watching television, and then Batman runs in too, so you get a little bit of that. The chase goes on, just beautiful art here by both artists on this book. There's an awesome Lee Week splash page of Batman jumping off a fire escape, and it's from like is like the Joker's like looking up on him. It looks so great. Um, Eventually, it all concludes as they fall down another fire escape and crash through a roof, and it's in Porky's bar from the Batman Fudd one shot, which King on Twitter did tease that we were eventually going to kind of get a pseudo sequel to that, and we get a good moment with Porky Pig where he stutters saying all of Batman's monikers: Cape Crusader, Dark Knight, World's Greatest Detective, and he points Batman in the right direction as the man in the mask is down in the sewer, and they then fall into the water in the sewer, and Batman unmasks him. It's the Joker, and he's laughing, and then we get Batman's like inner thought monologue when we learn that the guy who was standing over that was dead at the beginning, his name was William Ernest Coyote, and his last words were beep beep.
It's a little on the nose.
Little on the nose, but it was still really good. And a lot of people have said issue is filler this week, but I thought it was still really good. So filler probably, but also like if it's good, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, it's a clever idea. I did see one or two comments, like some people bitching about how like not much plot or even the silent aspects and stuff like that. But it sounds fun.
Well, it seems that King has been using the Nightmares arc to really go off on these fun like one-off stories that kind of play and twist with your head. Like we had the Professor Pig one with him and Garrett's that was just excellent. And we've had this, and then we've had the one issue with the question, which I'm assuming we're going to get back to that next issue. And then we had the one with Batman going through kind of like falling through time. So these have all been good issues. And he said it. He has a 100 issue run. Not every issue is going to be great. So, but also if we're a little bit of a break period for it, because like it's every 25 issues or so, a big moment's going to happen that kind of alters the rest of it. But like, I'm fine if he wants to do these one-off issues where he gets to play creatively and we get to get some like just top artists on the book. So I'm more than fine with this.
Yep. How about Justice League?
Well, I thought we were going to talk. We talking Naomi before Justice League?
We can, yeah. So Naomi number 3. We pick up with Naomi confronting this mechanic guy, and it's totally not her dad. The woman in the picture who looks exactly like her, at least as far as we know in this issue,
Not her
Probably
mom.
not her mom. Turns out this big giant mechanic guy who looks a little weird and kind of alien-like, and also the other woman in the photo, right?
Yeah.
They are Thanagarians, the planet related to Hawkman and the Nth Metal and all that shit. And I don't really,
Yeah, 3 issues in, the plot hasn't really moved, but the art's still great.
yeah, nothing happens really, but
Well, I mean, well, the end, her mom comes and kind of beats up the mechanic. Scene was kind of weird.
well,
Um,
here's the thing. So he's like a humongous guy. And
yeah,
also, I don't know if like the coloring makes him look like maybe slightly like a pink tint, and there's even like some like unique facial features. So it's like, okay, he's some kind of weird alien. And he even reminded me a little bit, not the same color, but a little bit of one of the Omega Men characters. But he's Thanagarian, and Thanagarians, I mean, he could be like a different race that the Thanagarians have employed or something like that, were born on Thanagar but not a Thanagarian. But
yeah,
the Thanagarians traditionally, and also as depicted pretty much in the Hawkman book, they look exactly like humans.
right,
And so I don't, it kind of pulled me out as someone who's really into Hawkman, who's
yeah.
right Hawkman. And then this book also connects with his backstory. It's connected to Gem World, which is Amethyst related, and so this kind of
Which
connects
also
with,
connects to Young Justice right now.
yeah, the other book in this line. And yeah, her parents come and her mom freaks out, and her dad takes her somewhere and then touches something or like turns around, and suddenly he's in Ronian armor and a jetpack like Adam Strange. And
Yeah.
so there's the Ron Thanagar like relationship thing. And so maybe she's Ronian, but maybe not because they're not. We know that they are not her parents.
I
So
mean, there is
really,
a case to be made that maybe Naomi's just perfectly normal and her dad's Rodian. At
yeah.
least her
Um,
adopted dad.
but basically, with relation to Naomi herself, nothing is actually answered in this issue at all. It's just like two reveals of background character, well, of supporting characters,
Yeah.
and I found this issue pretty frustrating actually.
Yeah, I mean, the series is, besides the art at this point, it's very clearly that we're gonna only get, like, maybe 1 thing per issue, and I really hope this is 6 issues and not, like, 12, but I think it's probably gonna be, like, 12.
No, I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6. I think it's 6, but that is the final issue, but they're labeling it the end of season 1. They're using that kind of terminology. So,
Okay.
more than likely there will be another Naomi series, but it might happen a year from now, 6 months from now, or something like that.
Anyway, to Justice League.
Well, let me say one last thing about Naomi.
Alright, you got one last thing.
The thing with this is, like, in, like, the first issue, maybe the second issue, whatever, like, Naomi as a character, even though we know literally nothing about her, it's like, okay, here's our main character, cool. And I know in like the first issue, she had some interactions, not directly, I think, but she talked to Superman or she saw Superman, everything like that.
No, well, no, she saw videos of Superman because she missed Superman. She
Okay.
kept mi
But the thing in this issue is like, we really get nothing actually from Naomi. She's just being like talked to and like moved around by the other characters. So there's not that much characterization going on in this issue at all. And so it's like, I don't even know, we still don't know the main character of this book. But you can go to Justice League now.
Yeah, part 2 of The Sixth Dimension. Scott Snyder still, well, Scott Snyder and Jorge Jimenez on the plot, Snyder on the words, and Jimenez on art. We're picking up where we left off, where the Justice League is now in the Sixth Dimension with this new Justice League team. And a lot of this is kind of reminiscent of the Better World two-parter from the Justice League cartoon. Like, just eerily similar. Like, on this world, everything's super peaceful. we got these alternate versions of the Justice League. They're older, and like you kind of get the sense that like not everything is currently right. And guess what? It's not. The Batman on this Earth, by the way, is it's revealed to be Dick Grayson because Bruce has since died. But Gotham is now like the brightest city on Earth, and it's like all white and like glowing. There's a little bit of a dream sequence moment with Jarro, who's like one of the Starro fish, and he was having a dream that he was Robin. It was a little funny. And Martian Manhunter senses that like Martian Manhunter and Hawk Girl have a relationship in the sixth dimension universe, and they have a kid, and their kid runs to Martian, like the real Martian Manhunter, like trying to warn them that everything's going wrong, and then that's like the huge tip off. But also, the Legion of Doom are using Mixie and trying to control everything, but kind of, but Brainiac and Lex and their plans. Moving forward to the next step, Lex has a box with Batmite's logo on it, so I'm guessing they're going to use Batmite also in the next issue. And then cutting to Superman, Superman was trapped in that planet that's totally dark, but he's since like crawling over all those bones that he was on, and he keeps trying to launch himself out of the world by trying to fly super fast out of it. But he just keeps flying all the way up and just gets to like a point where he just keeps falling and he's running out of powers. And the white golden version of Superman comes to visit him, and that's next issue is face to face with the future. So I think we're probably going to get super fights in the next issue.
Nice.
This continues to be fun, but I will be surprised if I stick with Justice League after this. Everything still ties into the ramifications of No Justice, which I think is kind of weird for a book that's now what, and it's over 20 issues in. Yeah, this is the 20th issue. So it's very clear that Scott Snyder's run is all going to be tied into one central element with a beginning, middle, end, one large story. I wish we would just be getting stories like this that are just kind of Justice League stories, not like everything has to tie into the source wall being broken and stuff. But oh well, at least the art's great and the story's pretty fun so far. But I feel like I'd rather just still watch a better world from the DCAU than read this.
Yep. So now over to Indie Corner, we have Criminal Number 3. This is the second part finale of this comic artist related story arc.
Yeah,
Hal,
Bad Weekend Part 2.
yep, Hal Crane. He has a scrapbook of classic strips, and that kind of shows how he used to not be as crotchety and fucked up. And the main character is related to Ricky Lawless, and I think we knew that last time, but that connects it to other criminal stuff because the
Well, no,
law.
his friend's related to Ricky Lawless.
Okay, yeah, the Lawless family is a major part of the criminal universe, and the actual heist that we were leading to, it's not that interesting to me. The rich guy ends up having pages that don't actually matter to Hal, and so basically they come up short. They don't find what they're looking for, and there's some talk about Charles Dickens and some artist named Robert Seymour who worked with him and got overshadowed. I've never heard of that. Probably should have looked that up before this rather than after, but that's an interesting thing to look into. And we get reference to other cartoonists that had crappy lives and stuff like that. Jack Cole and Joe Shuster and Archie Lewis, who is this character, which Hal Crane was like a protege of. And then the Wally Wood quote, which I like to use because it's so fucked up, is used in this book about how Wally Wood, towards the end of his life, he said if he could do it all over again, he'd cut his hands off.
Yeah,
And in fact, I had told that story to someone like the day before I read this book too.
that's crazy.
And then we cut to the award ceremony, which was the whole like setup of this encounter, and how Crane, he gives a good speech instead of this screed that everyone expected, but then punches his studio boss in the jaw.
Yeah, it's this great moment. It's our main character. I forget what is our main character's name.
You
Hal
mean
Crane's the art,
yeah? Fuck, I forget.
but he gives this great speech as he thinks it's all gonna work out fine, and then he just goes and punches the publisher.
Yeah, which gets the main character tased, and then definitely a standout panel. Hal Crane, he's trying to say, "Hey, kid, you shouldn't have quit drawing. Like you're pretty decent, even though I was an asshole." And the kid's like, "Well, comics are dying anyways because again, this is set in the mid late '90s, as they showed in the beginning. So this is the kind of bankruptcy post speculator boom." And Hal Crane tells him that comics have been dying since 1954, but everyone always figures out a way to make it work.
Right.
And of course, that's related to like the comics code and the hearings on books like the EC comics and stuff like that. And what he was actually looking for, Hal Crane reveals, he was looking for pages from the strip, which he took over from his mentor, Archie Lewis. And the kind of reveal here is that, in fact, Hal Crane like effectively caused the car crash and killed Archie Lewis, sort of in order to take over the strip. And then the big reveal is that the main character has those pages. He stole them because
Yeah.
in a drunken moment, Hal Crane told him to burn them when he was assistant because he felt all the guilt. And so the main
Right.
character, and I don't know what he's going to do with them because he's going to have a hard. Well, I don't know. The whole original art dealing, there's definitely lots of backroom stuff, so he could sell them to someone.
Right. But I think he's just gonna keep them.
Yeah,
I think it was the point. Was that like he has them. And I it kind of an easy twist, but I liked how it all tied together though.
yeah, and then as with most of his books, Ed Brubaker often writes an essay or gives some explanation in an editorial piece. And this one, the end of the arc, explaining a little bit.
Jacob Kurtz, by the way, was our narrator and
Uh,
main character.
and so I think I said this. I may have said this when we talked about the previous issue, but the car crash is inspired by a real one that actually happened, which cost the life of Alex Raymond. But I guess I didn't remember that another cartoonist named Stan Drake was also in that car and survived. He didn't come out unscathed, like he was really fucked up, but he survived. And that reminded me that there's a story, or however you want to call it, called The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. And it is a Dave Sim comic strip which ran as a backup in his super weird comic Glamour Puss. And the concept of Glamour Puss was to simultaneously provide a satire and critique of like fashion magazines and stuff like that, while also giving a very heavily researched and meticulously drawn history of photorealism in comic book art. And Glamour Puss got canceled because, you know, Dave Sim is this crazy old Canadian dude that no one cares about after he did 300 issues of Cerebus. And so he never finished The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. He's supposedly supposed to finish and eventually print it all in some volume. And in fact, I believe with a major publisher like IDW. But who knows when the hell that's happening? He's constantly doing Kickstarters for shit. So somehow track down Dave Sim and ask him if that book's ever going to exist. But I love this issue.
Yeah, this was my pick of the week. I liked. Did you read the essay in the back from Brubaker?
I read parts of it. I think I read the parts that were like talking about the real life connections.
Did you catch the part where he said that obviously Jacob Kurtz stars in the criminal series, the story Bad Night, which that takes 10 years after this story take place. But he said he made sure not to throw this full of prequel nods because he says stuff like, "Oh, hey, Darth Vader made C-3PO when he was a kid," tends to ruin stuff for him.
Yep. Yeah, it's probably my pick of the week as well. I think no, it definitely is.
And
Um,
I mean, like he also said, he's these arcs in Criminal, they're back, but maybe we're only going to get two parters. We might get a one parter. We might get a so we'll see how this goes. But I mean, delving into Criminal, I'm loving this book.
yeah, I'll definitely
It's
keep
been
reading. Um, Also, like I just want to point out the art as well. We mostly talk about Brubaker. The art is amazing,
yeah,
and
Sean Phillips is terrific.
and the coloring as well. The one scene where the cop cars show up, coloring on that page where they how the way they express the police car lights and everything. It's just an amazing page. And now I have another indie book to talk about. I have Dark Red #1. This is a new series from Aftershock from Tim Seeley and Corin Howell. And I believe Corin Howell also drew Calamity Kate, which I think was like the prior week, also #1. And either I'm totally wrong, or she's using, and I believe it's a woman, or she's using a pretty significantly different style in each book, which is pretty interesting. And so the setup here is that there's a vampire who lives in North Dakota, and he works night shift at a dingy truck stop, convenience store, because he's a vampire. And also, he's up north in North Dakota because then the sun's not quite up as much as if he was in Florida or something. And in fact, the his boss makes him stay a little later than usual this one shift, and so he's racing in his car home, and he's like just a tiny bit late, so he starts like just burning alive as he gets out of his car and rushes into his house, and then has to sleep through the day to recover his skin, which has been burned off. And he knows a woman who has some kind of disease or disorder. They name it. I don't remember what it's called, and it's scientific, and I can't pronounce it. But basically, I guess she produces too much blood. So she's at the danger of developing a clot, which could kill her or something like that. And so they kind of have like a symbiotic relationship where he's a vampire, he needs to suck blood, she needs to get rid of her blood, and the medical procedures are expensive, and she has to go out of her way to a big city. And so she just kind of comes over and he sucks her blood. And he's kind of where things actually get interesting to me is that he's kind of a redneck conservative vampire. He starts like talking to her about how the city cats are spoiled brats and they suck, and then he starts watching like an old like a really old like World War II movie or something on his TV. And I'm not sure how far they're going to go on that, but that was kind of interesting. And then he gets attacked by a bunch of hipster vampires or something, ends up killing most of them, but then he almost gets killed by one of them, but a chick wearing only a fur coat shows up and says that the our main character is the savior of the vampire race. And that's where it ends. Um, I thought it was a decent book. The art's pretty solid. Tim Seeley, I want to see more of like, you know, what he hints at here, where this vampire may be like a little conservative or like more closer in thought process and politics to the people who he lives around. And I have no idea where this is going because this whole like vampire savior race action stuff I find way less interesting than the small town weirdo vampire thing. But I may try out another issue.
Alrighty. And going to that's all for Indie Corner, right? So we're going over to Marvel. So I guess I'm taking Avengers because you just did the last two books. Conan's here, and Avengers No Road Home #6. This is pretty much all Conan. Um, and basically kind of just a journey between Conan and Scarlet Witch as they're trying to get whatever MacGuffin they need to get to the dimension they need to get to. Which leads them to a bunch of cultists that are going to make a sacrifice, and they stop it, but in doing so, it ended up opening the Rift portal anyway. So Nyx has come to Conan and Scarlet Witch, but also Hulk has he gets one of the crystals too, and he becomes gray. So is this a return of the Gray Hulk or a different Hulk entirely? And we're gonna get talk on more Hulk stuff right after this because kind of big stuff happened in Immortal Hulk this week as well, going forth on what kind of version of the Hulk we're seeing now. Um, there was one moment where Conan and Scarlet Witch almost kissed, and they didn't, and I think that was for the best because I think
Yeah,
that would have happened way too fast, and it would have been way too forced.
yeah, it's just soap opera. I mean,
Yeah,
well, way too fast. For what it's way too fast in real time, but for what it's worth, I guess they've been traveling around Samaria together
yeah.
for days, weeks.
Only a few minutes have passed with the Avengers where they're at, but like days and it seems like weeks have gone by with for Scarlet Witch and Conan.
But they both pull away from the kiss and they kind of say like, "Oh, there's someone else." And
Yeah,
for Scarlet Witch, it's Brother Voodoo, Doctor Voodoo, whatever code name he uses right now, and that relationship was referenced in the first issue.
right.
Conan is talking about Belit, but
She was getting a book of her own.
yeah, which we talked about probably last episode. But the thing with that is, again, I'm not the biggest Conan fan, but I've never seen Conan as the one woman kind of guy.
No, I never have either. Usually you see him with like sitting at a throne with like tons of women around him.
Yeah, and Belit's dead, and so even if he was like, all right, I really like Belit, once she dies, and this is old ass barbarian culture, so people are dying all the hell all the damn time, especially
Yeah.
the stuff that he gets up to. So on Conan's side, it felt a little more forced than Wanda's.
It's just weird because like we have so many Conan books right now. We have Savage Sword, where it's a much younger Conan. We have Conan the Barbarian, which I guess is more of an older Conan, and then we have the what's the other one?
Well, it's this Savage Avengers will come out later,
Yeah, and then the Age of Conan.
and then he's not in Bleach at
Yeah,
all.
not in that. So I'm just trying to figure out what stage of Conan's life he is in this book. Not that it truly matters a ton. I think he's integrated pretty well here, and I think he's kind of fun to have around. But we're gonna get Conan fighting more giant monsters. Next issue, he fought a giant scorpion with Scarlet Witch in this issue, and that was awesome.
Yep.
This continues to be fun and good. And then over in Immortal Hulk, it's kind of like it's really just a long talking issue. As the Hulk's head is repairing from the gunshot he got in the last one, we get to see his dialogue go from very simplistic Hulk to more complicated, and it's kind of hitting all like the different versions of the Hulk we've seen over time, which I thought was a really cool idea of Ewing to implement. By the way, this is Mortal Hulk number 15, and still Al Ewing and Joe Bennett on this. Um, but we get the backstory on how Doc Samson has come back to life. They do even mention that he was been hanging around with Winter Soldier because he's shown up in the Winter Soldier book by Kyle Higgins. So I liked the pay attention to continuity and connect that, and how he had a little bit of talk with Betty um, recently, and Betty was the one who wanted him to check in on Bruce, but especially since both knew Bruce was back, and Bruce specifically didn't call Betty until the end of the Green Door arc. because and Bruce only showed up because it was the funeral for Thunderbolt Ross. But the Hulk in this reveals that he's kind of like the Green Hulk, and the sense in like going green because he wants to, and he actually is the Devil Hulk. It's Banner had gotten to a point so much where he was so afraid that that he was ever afraid to let the Hulk kind of fully loose. And this version of the Hulk is more protected of Bruce, and they can still coexist. But this Hulk also like kind of hates humanity of like the wrong things they've done, and wants to try to protect things, but he also wants to protect Bruce. But this is the Devil Hulk, pretty much. He said that we were always afraid of. Not obviously the one where it's um, David Banner, but this is the Hulk that Bruce's subconscious was always afraid of, and he's been let out. So this is just adding to the multiple personalities of the Hulk, which I really liked, and kind of connecting the Devil Hulk and making it even matter more. And Bruce, I'm sorry, the Hulk says that Betty's not dead, but interesting enough, they go well, as they're. By the way, they're him and Samson are both leaping around, just having like this, like this intellectual conversation, which I liked. And they go to Rick Jones's grave, and it's empty. So next issue, we're dealing with possibly the return of Rick Jones. Is Al Ewing has pretty much brought back a lot of the Hulk's supporting cast from over the years, and I guess the last one he needed to bring back was Rick Jones.
Yep.
So this still continues to be really, really good, and I really liked the stuff with the Devil Hulk or Green Hulk going forward. And I don't think this is the. I think we're going to see more personalities down the road. I think we're going to get Joe Fixit soon because I think Joe Fixit is in some of the covers
Okay.
so,
All
for
right.
future issues. But yeah, this still's really, really good.
So now Meet the Scrolls #2. I decided to read the second issue of this series. We open with flashbacks to the destruction of Throne World, which the father of this family is a refugee from. And so maybe there's a little bit of PTSD on his side or just memories of that and how, he wants the scroll.
Wait. A story about people who aren't human trying to live in society with PTSD. You sure Tom King isn't writing this?
Yeah. And well, this is heavily inspired by Division.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm just making the joke.
And I that really sets up how he's really wants the scrolls to return to prominence, and he has grudges against other alien species, which includes humans from his perspective, and just sets up even more how he's disappointed in his daughter. And the main character, the girl, her name's Alice, her human name is Alice, and she's just really treated like shit. Her scroll name, which I think is like Alx or something, I'm not gonna bother to try and pronounce a fake scroll language.
Right.
What it means in their language is strength from wisdom. And her dad tells her to her face, "You lack that quality entirely," and then questions whether she's a scroll at all. And so everyone is just an asshole to her, and including the other, like the people that she's supposed to be spying on in school. And so she impersonates her bully's boyfriend to break them up, but then like consoles the girl, her bully. So, but it's not entirely clear in this issue whether that's her just using her powers to try and like get along in human society and fit in, or if that's her trying to actually do her job now and manipulate people and get information. And the scroll hunter who's been running around, we saw him kill a family in the first issue. He's is actually tracking her specifically, and the final splash page has him jump out of a door right as she opens it. And I still like this series. It's not
Yeah,
it's not
good
blowing me
feedback.
away, but it's pretty clever. And the art is, I love the art. It's got a nice like cartoony, like kind of not all ages, but like a nice bright style, but also with a creepy angle, which I think again is very similar to Gabriel Hernandez Walta on Vision with Tom King, but also nothing in this book like 100% screams, "Hey, we're ripping off Vision." Even though it's basically the same concept. And I enjoy this. I'll probably get the trade or something when it comes out if I find it for a deal. It'll be a nice companion to Scroll Kill Crew with the entirely opposite um, perspective.
I mean, I I've only heard good things about this book, and also it's fun to have the scrolls back in whatever kind of spotlight.
Yeah, scrolls are great.
Especially since we haven't really seen them since Secret Invasion.
Well, Se- Secret Invasion, but in a grander like Earth Marvel Universe sense, Secret Invasion. But there were some scroll developments in the whole Abnett and Lanning kind of cosmic stuff, and developments that weren't like super great, but they happened there, and then they were never followed up on. And so with Marvel Studios using the scrolls in a movie, hopefully we start seeing more and more scroll stuff because they're one of the coolest, alien races and concepts in the
They
Marvel
were the
universe.
first alien race in the Marvel Universe, Vince.
Yep, and the oldest from Fantastic Four number 4, maybe.
Two, I think it's number 2, right?
Yeah, maybe 2. Now Spider-Man life story.
You taking life? Are you taking Life Story?
I can do either. We have this and X-Men left.
You take this because I did 2 in a row. You'll do 2 in a row, and I'll take X Men.
All right. Spider-Man life story, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Mark Bagley, one of the seminal Spider-Man.
We got John Dell inking this and Dermata on coloring this. That's like the top talent everywhere on this book.
Yeah. So this first issue is set in 1966. We see that Iron Man is in Vietnam, and
Yeah.
the news reports are questioning the need for a draft for superheroes to make them go to war.
Yeah, specifically for like metahumans.
And Peter Parker, he there's one moment where he kind of acts like a total baby with Flash Thompson, but
Yeah.
then they patch things up because Flash is about to go to war, as he does in the mainline continuity. And he says that he's going to save people like Spidey because, again, Flash Thompson, always the whole joke with him is he's Spider-Man's biggest fan, but hates puny Parker. And then Norman Osborn, as a Green Goblin, almost kills
I
everyone.
love this scene in the bar with Norman. I thought it was great.
Yeah, he intimidates Peter and then puts on the Goblin mask. Or no, yeah, he almost kills everyone. And doesn't he has like pumpkin bombs?
He earlier in the issue, he meets Norman for the first time because he's dropping off Harry, and he gives the tip off and he says, "I've been watching you." And then when Peter goes to the bar, Norman's there, and he points them to the pumpkin bomb he has just sitting on the shelf, and he's like, "There's 12 more. He's 10 more of these hidden around. If you try to find them, I'm gonna blow them all up." He's like, "Get outside. I know you're Spider-Man."
Yeah, and the thing with that is obviously they're pumpkin bombs. I'm sure the Green Goblin does this all the time, but he uses that kind of bomb strewn about setup for the Revelations arc in the end of the Clone Saga as well. So I kind of thought about that for a half second. And Norman, from a punch or whatever, I don't remember specifics, he gets amnesia, just like he does in the.
He gets it because him and Spider-Man are fighting, and Spider-Man he pulls a giant billboard sign down and it smashes on him.
Yeah, so he gets amnesia and forgets that Peter is Spider-Man, just like he does in the comics.
Yep.
And then Captain America is going to Nam, and he gives a pep talk. And
Yeah, Spider-Man and Cap have a short little team up.
yeah, and then Peter misses Flash's train, and then the big thing from for the Spider-Man section at the end of this issue is that at the train station, Gwen Stacy unbuttons his shirt and sees Spider-Man's costume.
Well, not only that, but Peter also called in to the authorities on anonymous tip, telling him that Norman was the Green Goblin, and gets him sent away. And the amnesia is still there, so Norman doesn't remember any of this.
And then we flash forward a little bit to 1967, where Captain America shows up and is defending some Vietnamese against American soldiers, really.
Yeah, this was. I did not think this is where the book was going to go.
It's kind of interesting because, in fact, I don't know if I discussed this on air, but the interesting thing about Captain America is that,
He never actually went to Vietnam.
yeah, he never fully got involved in Vietnam, which was pretty impressive considering Vietnam was happening right as his books were being published with him back. And of course, he was in World War II. Of course, the 50s version of Cap was like super aggressive on communists and stuff. And in fact, there's only a single issue of Silver Age Captain America where he goes to Vietnam, but it's like a one-off thing. There's no politics discussed or anything. It's just totally trivial. And my overall thoughts on this issue, I really was excited for the concept. Like one issue, here's Spider-Man in the 60s, and here's some of the real life status quo stuff, and then the
Yeah,
70s and 80s and 90s, also tying in with some of the within continuity status quo stuff of the era. So like 90s, I was expecting, and I'm pretty sure we will get something Venom related and stuff like that.
I'm assuming if the Venom stuff's going to happen, it's going to be the '90s issue.
Yeah. No, well, actually, it could totally be 80s because
It
the
could
first
be '80s. It all depends because this issue started in 66, 67. If each issue of this series is only going to focus on one part of the decade, I'm assuming they're going to use '80s for something else before Venom, which is why I'm thinking '90s. But the cover for the '70s is Spider-Man holding on to a web disco ball, and it's the pumpkin bomb there. So I'm assuming we're going to get stuff with Gabi next issue, and probably like Death of Gwen.
Yeah, but to be honest, like this, I don't entirely get the point of this based on this one issue, and it didn't impress me a ton.
It. I thought I said in our chat that if you're going to read one book this week, probably Life Story. Just because I think it wasn't my pick of the week. I just think it was a really fun book that I think people should check out. If I were to give it, this ended up being in my top 3 for the week. I had Criminal, Batman, and then this. If I'm given a top 3, I thought this was really good, but it didn't evoke what I thought it was going to, because I thought it was going to be like Marvel's, but specifically for Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Wasn't exactly that. There was a lot more Marvel Universe stuff in here than I thought that we were going to see with Iron Man and Cap in Vietnam, which I thought was cool and different. But this isn't bad at all. I think it's very good. I think Bagley's pencils are great, and then John Dell and Dramata are two of the best inkers and colorists in comics. So there's nothing wrong here with how it's put together. I just it's not totally what I expected, but I still think it's very good.
yep. I mean, I'll definitely read the second issue, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to definitely read all of it. And then our final book of the week, Uncanny X-Men number 14. Still with the same team of Matt Rosenberg and Salvador LaRocha, which I think we can just get it out of the way here. Is this the most inconsistent book art-wise that we read on this show?
That we read, maybe.
I,
In comics, definitely not.
in comics, definitely not. I think that we read on the show, definitely. Like, this book is all over the place with because there's shots where it looks great and there's shots where it looks not so great. Um, we start with Val. It's Valerie. I want to say Val Cooper, right?
Yep.
Tipping off the X-Men to a mutant-related problem, and they go and grab Reaper. Who's Reaper? I have no idea who it is.
I should have refreshed myself before this. So keep going, and I'll chime in a
All
second.
right. But there was a really cool shot of multiple men surrounding him as they've captured him and get more information out of him. Basically, this is kind of addressing some Morlock stuff that's happened. because Chamber shows back up and kind of joins the team in this issue. Um, as the X-Men go and try to, I forget what they're trying to stop, but there's a great moment where Wolverine tries to leap out a window and they walk outside and there's just a knife stuck in his head, because Callisto stuck it there. But they did this favor for Chamber, which then takes them to not Chechnya, um, as they take down a giant tank thing. You got a really cool shot of Scott leading the X-Men on a half splash page. It was really cool, and mission well done. But Captain America comes at the end of the book, and also it seems that Chamber's sticking around joining the team. I think, 'cause at least that's what he says. But yeah, still good.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. So Reaper, he's just part of the original Mutant Liberation Front with Strife, created by Rob Liefeld in early New Mutants, early Liefeld New Mutants.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing super important about him. Scrambler is here, and I feel like I don't know if it's deja vu, but I was reading something with Scrambler involved.
Well, last week we read Wonder Twins #2 with the Scrambler.
Oh, so okay, two characters named Scrambler. That was it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
A lot
you
of
mentioned
a lot of the Morlock stuff was cleared up here too, as the X-Men went back and saved the Morlocks.
the last page, right?
Yeah, with Captain America. We're gonna mention how he looks now, probably. It's not Chris Evans, but it looks like someone Googled. He looks like Chris Pine, actually, but he's like slim in the torso, but it's long. But it's
Yeah,
a very weird looking Captain America.
yeah, he looked kind of weird to me too. Um, but yeah, and I felt like he was totally looking for someone because I mean, felt like he totally looked like someone, but I don't know if he looks like anyone. But I just assume that because of LaRocca and some of his photo referencing um, other examples and stuff like that. But
Well, I'm assuming Cap's here because we already had Cyclops and Cap have that little spat back in issue 11, and the X-Men haven't been quite like operating in secret since this book has taken place. So I hope this doesn't become another X-Men versus Avengers thing. But I mean, Scott put him in his place the last time they talked, and I don't feel like they have any. Uh, as even as a Captain America fan, I don't think Cap has any real kind of ground to stand on here when it comes to any argument.
yeah, what I'm interested to see is like if this dovetails at all with whatever the hell Hickman is doing, because I don't know if it does. Like, is this book going to start tying into whatever that is, or I'm assuming this book doesn't end because that would be really dumb. But at the
Yeah,
same
because
time,
we like this book,
yeah, but
so
at the same time, if Hickman just does his stuff off to the side and like there's no real impact or anything, it's weird because then we'll have like this entire year plus of like a core X-Men book going on and being really, really good, but getting overshadowed by these like marketing events because we forget because we don't read any of this junk, but this stupid Age of
Age
X-Man,
of X-Men.
whatever the hell, is going on at the same time as this. And so you'd have an entire year of these gimmicky X-Men events which don't directly impact like the main continuity and main book, but they have twice as many books on the stands or more.
Well, yeah, it is very weird because they brought back Uncanny X-Men, specifically like Uncanny, to be the flagship book. But with the Age of X-Men stuff going on, you're exactly right. This has not felt like the flagship book at all, even though it's trying to be. Or at
Yeah,
least it's just a very odd situation for the X line right now. But it like I still maintain that it's fun to have an X-Men book I read that's feeling like X-Men.
yeah.
But those are all the books for the week.
Yep.
Any final thoughts? I thought it was a strong week. There's nothing I didn't not enjoy. So
Yeah, it was a strong one. Both companies put out some of their major books. Um, we enjoyed pretty much everything we read. Um, and yeah, so again, next week, our special retro issue is Tales to Astonish 74. And tune in for some of the other books that we'll be talking about next week. And thanks for watching this one.
yep.